What's going on, everyone? My name is the Crimson Carver. I am a variety streamer over on Twitch and a Warframe content creator over on YouTube. Today, we are going to be jumping into the Warframe Baruuk. Now, this is a beginner-friendly guide to Baruuk. This is pretty much everything you need to know from his stats, abilities, augments, and at the very end, we will have a gameplay of Baruuk in a level 80 to 100 mission, so you guys can see how well he does. And if you're looking for a build guide, that will be happening later on. I will do that for all my builds. So yeah, keep your eyes open for the notifications. And without further ado, let's jump into it. Baruuk can be bought from the marketplace for 325 plat, or his main blueprint and all his subsequent blueprints can be obtained via Vox Solaris in Fortuna. But there is a prerequisite. In order to access the Syndicate, you will have to do the War Within quest, so keep that in mind. Baruuk has 180 health, 270 shield, 185 armor, and 200 energy, as well as a 1.2 sprint speed. So, as comes standard with most prime frames compared to their normal counterparts, they typically come with increased stats. And in this case, Baruuk as opposed to Baruuk Prime. Right? So Baruuk Prime has increased armor and increased shield. Passive. Each projectile dodged, each enemy lulled or disarmed, erodes Baruuk's restraint and fuels the storm within. As Baruuk's restraint is diminished, he becomes 50% more resistant to damage. Elude. Dodge all incoming projectiles, but only while not attacking. Use again to deactivate this ability. So essentially, how this works, right, is so long as you're not attacking any projectiles like bullets or energy projectiles, I think some explosives like the Tonkor or the Ogress rounds, sorry, it took me a second to realize which one it was. They can pretty much pass through Baruuk while he has this ability active, right? Okay, it has a drain of 25, a drain per second of 2.5, and an angle of 180 degrees. Now, as comes standard with most abilities, he is able to be affected by efficiency mods, much like Streamline here, which will reduce the cost of the overall ability, and should also help reduce the drain per second. Now, I'm not really sure if there's like a new player version of this mod to get, considering this is a pretty standard mod to come across. You should be able to pick it up while farming out other mods while in the Plains of Eidolon or doing bounties to get the Auger mods to kind of help you along your way. But yeah, I know this ability is affected by efficiency, obviously, as you can see here. It helps the drain and the drain per second. It's also affected by range, believe it or not. Auger Reach, which you can obtain from the Plains of Eidolon bounties, will increase the angle that you are able to essentially have damage pass through you. That's essentially how that works. Then once again, Auger Reach can be obtained by going and farming out the Plains of Eidolon. They have bounties that rotate every 2 hours, I believe. So yeah, you can go there, farm out Auger Reach, and then away you go. Okay, on to the next ability. Lull. A calming wave slows enemies until they fall into a slumber. Enemies woken by damage will be confused and disoriented. Short-term amnesia means all waking enemies forget anything that happened before the lull. So essentially, this is a slow that eventually turns into a sleep skill. That is essentially how that works. It has a drain of 50, a radius of 25 meters, duration of 5 seconds, so that's basically how long it takes for the ability to turn into a sleep from the slow, and then a sleep duration. So basically, that means that the enemies are going to be asleep for 20 seconds. Now, if you look at the ability, once again, it can be affected by mods such as Streamline, reducing its overall cost. Range mods such as Augur Reach, which you can get from the Plains of Eidolon through the bounties, which will increase the radius of which enemies will be affected. So, for example, you'll be able to affect enemies that are in a 32-meter radius of you. Okay, so that's always nice. It's also affected by duration mods, much like continuity. Now, if you're having trouble getting continuity, I highly recommend getting Augur Message from the Plains of Eidolon bounties, because that will not only increase the duration of the ability for the slow, it'll also increase the sleep duration. So keep that in mind. The next ability we're going to look at is called Desolate Hands. Summon a bevy of orbiting daggers to seek out enemy guns, destroying them with a small explosion, combined with Elude to double the damage. It has a drain of 75 energy, a radius of 6 meters, the number of charges is 8, the explosion damage, also explosion range, is 3 meters, the area damage is 250 blast, and you gain 80% damage reduction. Now, based on what we can see here, it is, once again, like the other abilities, it's affected by efficiency mods like Streamline. As you can see, it's going to reduce the initial cost. It's also affected by range. So, Augur Reach, definitely a solid choice here. The explosion radius is pretty good. Desolate Hands basically means that the radius of Desolate Hands is going to reach more enemies that are further away. Now, it also is affected by strength mods like Intensify, right? So that is going to affect the area damage, the damage reduction, and the number of charges you can have. Now, if you can't get Intensify, I highly recommend getting Augur Secrets. Once again, it's another mod that you can obtain by doing the bounties on the Plains of Eidolon. So if you're having trouble getting Intensify, pick up Augur Secrets from the Plains of Eidolon. Last ability we're going to be looking at is something called Serene Storm. Now this is Baruuk's, let's call it his exalted ability, right? So basically what this does is, it lets him use his exalted weapon, which I will show in a minute. So, Serene Storm. With his restraint eroded, Baruuk commands the desert wind to deliver powerful radial strikes with his fists and feet. Each movement commanding the storm restores his restraint. Now this in itself gains damage reduction. So, once again, it's affected by strength mods such as Intensify, right? So, Intensify is going to increase the damage reduction which you can gain from this ability, as well as its initial damage as well. Now, as I said, it's an exalted ability, which means it is fully moddable, right? So you can put a arcane on here, you can mod it however you see fit. Now, as things are presently, Baruuk only has 3 augments, right? Elusive Retribution, Endless Lullaby, and Reactive Storm. And we're going to go into all 3 of these augments, and I'm going to explain what they do, how they work, and, the sort of things that you can use to improve them, right? So the first one I'm going to go into is Elusive Retribution, right? So it's an augment for the Elude ability. Every attack increases his melee attack speed, mind you, this is every attack that he eludes, right? So every attack that passes through him, it will increase his melee attack speed and melee crit damage for 5% up to 6 stacks. And they last for about 6 seconds, right? So I believe that it is affected by mods such as Augur Message for duration, increasing the buff duration and the drain per second of the initial ability. It is also affected by strength mods, which is going to increase your melee attack speed, your melee crit damage, and the buff capacity, right? So the buff cap basically means, okay, this is how high this ability goes to, right? And it can be increased by using strength mods like Intensify or Augur Secrets, which is, yeah, definitely a viable option. Now, on to the next one. So the next augment we're going to get into is one called Endless Lullaby, right? So it's a lull augment. Performing a finisher or killing an enemy sleeping will re-trigger lull for 100% of the remaining duration, and the passive grants a plus 50% lull duration, right? So this basically means that whenever you kill an enemy that is affected by lull, it's going to re-trigger the ability, and it is going to last for 100% of the ability duration. But with the passive, it grants plus 50% more duration. Now, I think it's affected by strength. Yes. No. So, you cannot augment this in any way whatsoever, right? So there is no way that you can increase the passive or the initial duration, right? So it is set at 100%, so keep that in mind. Right, so the next ability, or augment rather, I should say, I'm going over is Reactive Storm. Now this is the most popular one by far, given what it does, right? So it's an augment for Serene Storm, right? And Desert Wind is granted 250% status chance and changes its damage type to match enemy weaknesses, right? So, status chance is modifiable using strength mods, right? So you can increase its stat chance by using strength mods like Intensify or Augur Secrets. And once again, I recommend getting Augur Secrets purely because it is one of the most easiest ways to obtain your basic duration mods, right? So yeah, affected by strength, right? Makes sense because of how most of this ability works. And one important thing to note about this, whenever your Serene Storm or Desert Wind will hit an enemy, it's going to proc 2 different types of damage, right? It's going to proc the modded damage, and then it's also going to proc the enemy's elemental weakness because of how Reactive Storm works. So keep that in mind.
Look at that. More kibble for the Drox. Save some for me, puppies. Awoo!
Worm Queen. Even as the Neural Sentry corrupts her best troops, she continues to send more. What is she after? The Orican Neural Sentry is attempting to purge you from this place. Stand by for life support. Fighters will soon attack. The longer you hold out, the deeper I can search. But if you need to live, extraction is ready. Void signatures, but outside the corrupted. They are draining their life support, and fast. Eliminate them quickly. The sentient has detected you. Fighters incoming. All manner of Orican technology may work here due to the Circulus's proximity. If you have a necromech, you may use it. Another job well executed.
Now, I want to point out that this is merely meant to be a guide to help you figure out how you want to play Baruuk. It's not meant to be like, hey, this is how you have to play Baruuk, okay? The purpose of these guides, right, is to give you guys an understanding as to how these frames work so you can build them in the way that you want to play them.